Hate to say this, but someone has to. Thrawn is jacked. Yeah, Thrawn is jacked. Hey, besties. Welcome back to Rebels Revisited. It is currently 20 after midnight, and I am suffering with the worst sunburn I've ever had in my life. But let's Rebels Revisited. Moving along with Season 3, getting real close to the end, and today we get to check back in on Kallus and how he's doing as a double agent in the Empire. This is Through Imperial Eyes Revisited. The opening sequence of this episode is honestly one of the best parts of the whole thing. It's very unique. We watch the opening sequence literally through Kallus's eyes. We get to see the details of his Imperial room, which isn't something we often get to see, and it's just a really good way to throw us into the episode. It's personal, it's tense, it gets us just in the right mindset for the tone and the subject of this episode. And as the episode moves forward, we get into the premise. Ezra infiltrates the Empire to extract Kallus and rescue him from Thrawn's skeptical eye. And Thrawn is definitely someone to be scared of, as this episode definitely shows us. Jokes aside, the scene where he's training is a great addition because it shows how Thrawn is a well-rounded threat. We already know that his genius is unparalleled. We've watched him work and he's very formidable in that sense. But since we know he's a tactical genius, we don't think about how physically skilled he is. His mental ability kind of makes us not think about his physical ability. Now we're shown that he's dangerous in that area too, and it just makes him all the more intimidating as an antagonist for this show. And a real quick fun fact, Thrawn has Macquarie art on his wall. Take a look at that. Pretty cool. Rebels really is just a love letter to Ralph McQuarrie. Of course, the main event in this episode is Kallus himself. It's a great look into the constant tension of his life within the Empire. Like, here we have Yularen. Kallus was one of Yularen's best students. Yularen trusts Kallus and highly regards him. That's the kind of position that Kallus is in. It would be hard enough for any random low-ranking Imperial to defect, let alone someone as important and as respected as Kallus. Kallus is expected to be the best, to be the most loyal. He has a lot to lose and a harsh punishment waiting for him if things don't go his way. And it's even more intense because Kallus is actually involved in the investigation of the rebel spy, you know? Yularen asks him for his opinion on all of this and everything. Kallus plays his role perfectly and Yularen comes out of the conversation none the wiser, but the fact that Kallus is in the situation in the first place, lots of suspense. It feels better watching it now, knowing that Kallus will be okay, but the first time I watched this back when it aired, man, I felt sick. And if anything, this episode proves to us how much Kallus has earned his place of respect and high regard. He perfectly orchestrates things to frame List as the rebel spy. If anyone lesser than Thrawn had been Kallus's opposition, they'd be hard-pressed to figure out the truth. This also makes Thrawn a great adversary for Kallus because both of them demonstrate being smarter than the average Imperial. Both of them could easily be a bunch of steps ahead of their colleagues. Now, obviously, Thrawn is probably smarter than Kallus, but evidently, not many are. That's why Thrawn needs to be Kallus's adversary. We need someone that smart in order to put Kallus in real danger. Gotta say, I do feel sorry for List, but man, if he doesn't make me laugh in this episode. He was wholeheartedly incorrect. He thought he was on to something. He didn't stand a chance. Pour one out for my man List. Also, this makes me laugh every time.
You're the shuttle thief who— Oh!
And then, right at the moment when Kallus has the chance to escape, he decides to stay in the Empire, saying he can do more good there. Wow. That really shows us how much Kallus truly believes in the rebellion. He's really sticking his neck out for this cause, and even more than he has to, considering that he had the chance to escape. all because he wants to do as much good as he can. That's just so selfless of him and so the opposite of what we'd expect from him when we met him in Season 1. Kallus's road to rebellion was not the smoothest, definitely not the easiest. He's in constant danger, being a high-ranking Imperial leaking information to the rebellion, but even then, his contacts in the rebellion didn't want to trust him at first. He didn't have friends on either side, and now here he is deciding to stay with the Empire. It's just so clear that Kallus believes in what he's doing so much because nothing can shake him from doing it the best that he can. And then we go back to Thrawn, who has figured everything out. What if I just play that clip because I love it?
Colonel Yularen, what do you think of this design?
A beast of some kind?
A stylized expression of a Lothcat, a ubiquitous native of Lothal, and rendered by a very familiar artist. The use of this specific color, the angle of the line, this is the work of the rebel Sabine Wren. I believe this helmet belongs to her compatriot, the young Jedi and I escaped prisoner, Ezra Bridger.
Bridger? If Bridger was the shuttle thief, why didn't Kallus alert us?
Because, Colonel Yularen, Kallus is the rebel spy, Fulcrum. He used List's cylinder to impersonate and implicate him. And more importantly, he used the young Jedi's power to gain access to my office and reprogram my droids. Very skillfully, I might add.
I would never have suspected one of my best students was capable of this betrayal.
And that is why you and so many others have been deceived. I believe Agent Fulcrum will prove far more useful to the Empire than Kallus ever was.
Never before have we had a villain like this on Rebels. I mean, it really sinks in right there. To actually have him walk us through how he involves art and how he pieces everything together just makes it sink in. He's legitimately a step ahead of our heroes this time. It makes every incompetent Imperial that preceded him feel deliberate from a writing standpoint, just because every incompetent Imperial before him just makes Thrawn feel that much more intimidating and necessary. And there we have it. Through Imperial Eyes. A suspenseful and tense watch in a fun way once you know things end up being okay. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.